When you hear the term movies, what comes to mind? Action, suspense, horror, romance? What about the experience? Have you ever considered where and how you watch a movie to be influential on how you connect to it emotionally, maybe even subconsciously? If you've ever been to a drive-in theater, you may very well relate to this question. What is a drive-in? In simplest terms, it's an outdoor movie theater where customers can watch a movie from their vehicle. However, really, it's beyond simple. A drive-in is half movie, half experience, not like a themed theater, but more of a venue severed from time. In a moment, we'll tour several real drive-in locations scattered around Arkansas and Tennessee, better acquainting you with the business, the people running them, and why you may have heard more about them recently during the COVID-19 pandemic. Before we do though, let's briefly observe the history of the drive-in to get an understanding of why they exist. Since the 1910s, many U.S. businesses had experimented with outdoor cinema venues, but it wasn't until 1933 that Richard Hollingshead patented a new type of theater that started a business trend that would endure for decades. Based in Camden, New Jersey, Hollingshead was inspired to design a venue for his mother, who was discomforted by regular cinema-style seating. In his design, he catered seating to customer vehicles rather than people themselves. Hollingshead's 400-acre property was equipped with spacious parking with easily accessible ramped rows, allowing customers to incline their view and not be blocked by vehicles between them and the screen. The movie was projected on a 40 by 50 foot screen, with audio supplied by 3 6-foot speakers. Richard Hollingshead invented what he called the drive-in theater. His company, Parkett Theaters, initiated a steady flood of establishing drive-in theaters across the states. Over 4,000 were created in a 20-year time span. They were popular among families and even more so with teenagers. Outdoor seating allowed for much more flexibility than a traditional theater, and the comfort of bringing one's own vehicle to lounge in with exclusivity and privacy was great incentive to continue viewing more movies at a drive-in. All was well until the 1970s arrived. Early in the decade, America's oil market was greatly damaged when OPEC placed an oil embargo on countries believed to be supporting Israel during the Yom Kippur War, the U.S. among them. Many citizens would either not obtain or soon afford gas as oil prices tripled. As less vehicles were on the road, less were in drive-ins. To make matters worse, in 1976 came the VHS cassette, a new medium for video recording, and with it, access to media straight to home.
That's when so many of your drive-ins went out of business. All of a sudden, you could record your favorite movies, your shows at home. You could go pop that tape in and you could watch a movie at home. It was not a good time for drive-ins.
Like a middleman being cut out, the drive-in and many cinemas were devastated by the revolutionary VCR that was in more than 60% of every American home. Being seasonal operations as well, most drive-in theaters could not avenge their annual revenue. Over 4 decades, more than 90% of America's drive-in theaters closed. At their height, there were more than 4,000 locations. As of 2020, around 300 drive-ins remain. To this day, the remaining theaters have provided novelty entertainment and family-tailored experiences to many. They still hold up their charm, especially in the year 2020, in which most of America's businesses closed their in-house services or shut down their lobbies until further notice. Earlier in the year, you might have heard about their resurgence in the United States from many news sources not long after cinemas in Hollywood shut down due to the eruption of the coronavirus. From it, several new temporary and permanent drive-ins sprouted this year. Even the Walmart retail chain planned a tour to 160 of their store locations with a pop-up drive-in event that they started early fall. This all begs the question though, are drive-ins truly making a comeback, or are they simply the only entertainment option available out of home, not closed by the shutdown? Let's go visit those venues to find out. Our first stop is an Arkansas theater directly influenced by COVID-19's first lockdown and quarantine back in March. James Junction in Pocahontas is run by partners Joe Barry and Graydon Carter.
Clap time. We began operation in May, and we had this mostly built by June 15th. We had our first show by July 10th. So there was a little bit of a period there where we were technically a company and doing some things, but we just weren't ready to show yet. Yeah, Pocahontas does not really have much of an entertainment market. There was a standard 2-screen theater that closed down about 10, 15 years ago. I don't remember exactly when they closed down. And for the past 10 or 15 years, the closest option you've had for going out and having a good time was Jonesboro or Paragould, and we saw that drive-ins were resurging due to COVID-19. We saw a lot of older drive-ins reopening, doing fairly well, especially in the Northeast, and we decided we'd give it a try. We'd always been into, AV type stuff, so it wasn't that big of a step for us to reach our fingers in, and I feel like it's going pretty well so far. Graydon and I built this ourselves with some help from our families. It took a few weeks to get it to the point it's at now, but I can speak for Graydon. I think we're both pretty proud of it.
We're visiting Joe on a weekday, so the theater is closed. You can get a sense of the efficient simplicity of a drive-in when you look at James Junction. The essential items are a projector, a media source, a protective space for the projector, a screen, and a radio transmitter for audio. Although there's concession and visitor amenities, customers primarily get to control their viewing, the lounging, and bringing whatever concession the vehicle allows. The minimal operation of the theater allows need for few people on site to run it on an average show night, in contrast to a cinema, where facilities need 10 to 20 employees on average.
It definitely has a small town vibe. Everything was built with just treated lumber and what we had available to us. Otherwise, just pulleys and rigging, sort of how you would imagine an old-fashioned sail. And what we particularly like about being out here is there's lots of space. We're technically just in a residential area. As far as we can tell, we're not congesting traffic. We're not bothering people by having our operations out here.
What kind of projector is hanging up over there?
We have a FLM HD20 Barco series, which is 20,000 lumens, which I believe it came out in 2001, 2002, so it's a little bit older for a cinematic projector, but it's still in great quality. We actually got it from Graydon's father-in-law, William Burgess, who is our third partner. He's sort of our angel investor. He does a lot of the technological stuff for us, and he just had a few, so he said that if we got everything else going, he'd let us use it out here, and that's what we did.
Why don't you walk me through your setup on a showing night?
Well, for me, I normally am here about 2 hours before showtime, and I'll start setting up the projector, get it plugged in. It has about a 5-minute warm-up time before you can actually turn on the lamp and start projecting an image. So during that warm-up time, we'll raise the screen. The screen initially took 5 people to raise because it has 5 strands of paracord going through 1 pulley each, and we'd have 1 person on each strand of paracord literally hoisting it up. You'd have each person trying to lift roughly 100 or 150 pounds a piece, trying to do that all in unison. We'd have a few slip-ups, a side would start falling, we'd have to hold on as hard as we could and get it straightened out. But now we have them all merging together in the middle on a winch, so it can be done just with the press of a button. It's a big improvement if you ask me.
What would you say has been your favorite memory so far?
My favorite memory, our opening night probably. We showed Jaws, which is, a huge summer classic, and We had about 110 cars show up, the most we've actually had so far. You know, opening night, super exciting, but it was great to see something come to fruition. You can create those opportunities for yourself and find things to do, even if it takes a little bit of extra work. And why we think the drive-in specifically is important is it's not just going to see a movie, it's an event. It is something for you and your family, or you and your partner, or just you alone. We've had some people come by themselves to get out of the house, which, you know, as we all know, that's pretty important when it comes to keeping your sanity together, especially now during COVID-19. It's not good to be shelled up all the time.
Thanks, Joe. Right now, we're on our way to Stone Drive based in Mountain View, an old town with a rich folkway history. A tourist destination notorious for its festivals and vintage tailor businesses, it's only natural that a drive-in theater still thrives within the community. The theater was started and is still operated by the Thompson family, currently the third generation. So if you would, tell us who you guys are and how you know each other.
Okay, I'm Holly Jones, Rachel Rushing,
Landon Thompson.
and we know each other because we're brothers and sisters, and we were all born here and raised here, and obviously we know each other pretty well. Yeah, we were all Thompsons at one point.
Oh.
I'm the only one left.
And you said born here. Are we talking about here?
Yeah, we were actually all born up there in the trailer.
Huh. So how'd this place come to be?
Well, our grandpa built it in the 60s. He built it in 1964 and it opened in 1965. He and our grandmother ran it for several years, and then sometime after our grandfather passed away in the 70s, I'm not sure exactly which year, our dad kind of took over running the place, and we were born in the 80s, and so we've been here our whole lives and helped him take care of the place until in the last few years as he got sick, we were doing more of it, but it was still technically his. But now he passed away, and it's like we've completely taken over. And
Yeah.
So our grandfather had, he traded
a Cessna airplane, like a small,
single engine or something, and he traded it for a projector. And
then that was the same projector we used
Yeah.
until 3 years ago when we had to upgrade to digital.
Right.
So it's been the same projector since.
So when he got that,
did
he
that in
traveled, he
64.
would drive around in the north central Arkansas area, and they would project a movie onto the side of like barns especially, or, you know, buildings of some sort in different towns, and people would pay, I think he used to say it was like a quarter. And people would come and park wherever it was and watch a movie, and that's what he did before they were able to build the drive-in. When we had the 35 millimeter projector, etc., you had to like get cases of film in and
Yeah.
splice them
They came in.
together
Splice them
and have a
together.
big thing.
And then you had to break them down.
It was a lot of work that they put into doing that.
And of
Happened
course,
last
when we
year.
were little, it was pretty common for something to happen, but it was one of those things that Dad
would take care of most of the time.
Dad just knew how to fix it.
Just recently did they replace that original 35mm projector for a digital one, cutting a lot of maintenance and setup time down drastically.
Most days you just have to come and like
turn on the projector.
pretty much just turn.
Turn on
It's
the-
pretty easy. I mean anymore,
Yeah, now.
like the process of doing it, because it's just basically like a computer hooked to the projector. You just have to basically transfer data from a hard drive to the server,
Right.
and
So used to,
and then you just
would've
pretty much. I mean, you kind of just turn it on. I
Right.
mean, you got to do a little bit of like
concession prep work. And,
yeah.
Do you think the majority of your customers are tourists?
Well, I mean, we get a lot of, a lot of people from out of town. That's really common. They want to specifically come to the drive-in, and then in Mountain View we do have like a lot of events and
Festivals.
festivals and things. So there's people from out of town that are in, and when they find out there's a drive-in, they want to hop
Yeah.
out, and they usually have a pretty good time. We spend a lot of our time talking to people. Like a lot of our time is spent talking to customers. They'll pull up and I'll spend 30 minutes to an
Yeah.
hour talking to someone just about, they might ask half these same questions about our,
Yeah.
our life or why we have a drive-in or whatever. And we'll talk to them, and then they usually will get good feedback back from them on Facebook or something.
Do Do you guys see yourselves always taking care of this theater, or something else planned for the future?
I think all of us, we just really couldn't imagine
Well-
not being here or somebody else owning it for that matter.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
mean,
we've always been here.
Like we've always been here, you know. So, yeah, I don't think there was an official, like,
Yeah, like
I mean, because we all have our own things too, you know, that we do. So it's just more of a, what do you call it?
a summer.
A family side thing that we do. It's not necessarily
Summer
like a
farm.
great profitable business. It's just like a,
Yeah.
Well, and we just really we
we like
just
it,
really enjoy
'cause
it,
we've been
and we
here.
grew up here, and it just
Yeah.
seems like what we're supposed, you know.
yeah, what we're supposed to do.
But we enjoy it. I don't
Yeah.
mean like
Oh yeah, it's not like suffering or
Yeah.
hardship. It's just
yeah, no.
The program for the night is Take Me to the Moon, an Arkansas Science Festival event in which the audience can take a lunar tour, learn more about the moon, watch the Apollo 11 documentary, and more. Not far from here is Marshall, a scenic town in Arkansas's Ozarks. We're stopping by here to visit the town's arguably most notable landmark, the Kenda Drive-In Theater, the only year-round operating theater in the state. Let's meet the folks running the show.
I'm Todd Deering.
Kenda Deering. Well, my parents opened in 1966, so I was born and raised here. Todd joined the team. We were married in '83, so then we took over. We worked with Mom and Dad from that point on, and then in 2003 we took over permanently. So we've had ownership since 2003. So family owned since 1966.
What would have inspired your parents to build Kenda Drive-In?
Well, I was around, but I obviously don't remember much because I was a baby. You know, my dad decided he wanted a drive-in more than anything else. His parents owned a theater here in town, a walk-in up in town. They opened in the 40s. He had come back from service and decided he was stationed in Missouri for a while in Grandview, and they went to a drive-in up there, and he and my mom decided they were going to build a drive-in. So bought this piece of property, and 2 or 3 local guys, and we've both heard the story over and over again. 2 or 3 local guys decided, you know, we're going to figure out how to do this, and they didn't have a clue what they were doing, but they did a pretty good job of it. And he had a great steel guy that built the steel screen, and a really good electronics guy that figured out all the wiring and everything. So he built through '65, and then into '66 opened in early April of '66. Of course, when he found this piece of property, it's a natural piece for this because it's a natural amphitheater. If you notice, the property slopes to the screen. So we're not on a flat piece of property. If you're in the back, you're actually elevated above that first ramp. So it's a natural, he couldn't have picked a better piece of property. It's a perfect place. And like I said, had some good buddies that knew what they were doing in the right fields. And they put their heads together and figured out how to build a drive-in.
The Deerings made the switch from film to digital projecting in 2013. Currently, they're using a Christie CP2308. It uses a xenon bulb, which combined with the theater's metal paneled screen creates deep, vibrant colored movies. So why go digital? Was it a choice or a necessity?
It was go digital or go home. So there's no 35mm film at all these days.
Not much. There may be a little bit in some of your art houses that are still running some, but not in the general market. 2000, if you go back 2013, 14, 15, in that range, that was the other big, huge cut on drive-ins because that's the ones that didn't go digital. You know, if you didn't go digital, then you went black and you closed down. So there hasn't been a mass wipeout or any kind of catastrophic event that's caused a lot of drive-ins to go under since that time. We could have limped with films for probably 2 or 3 more years, but we decided that, it was time to go. And we did a lot of research in terms of what's the best projector for a drive-in. Not as much research out there on drive-in projectors, not as many drive-ins out there. Right. So, you wanted to make sure that you got the right kind of projector for the drive-in, and I think we chose very well because we chose one that had upgradable light. We can go up to 6,000 watts and push our light up if we have to and different things like that. So we've been very, very happy with our system. Okay.
Looks like a customer is calling.
The answer machine will pick up, but usually Kenda Drive-In.
While she's with them, let's browse the venue. Like the Thompson family, Kenda Deering grew up on the theater property. Today, her and Todd live just by the entrance and her mother still lives on the backside of the drive-in's lot.
If you had been to the drive-in here 40 years ago and you drove in, you would say, well, not much has changed. The building is the same color, it looks the same. We still have no idea, and I wish before my daddy passed away I'd ask him why this color. Probably because it was on sale or something, but up until COVID we were handing out speakers that looked the same even though they were not the same at all. But underneath and the underlying, a total upgrade obviously to digital FM, which we did a long time ago. We took all of our speakers, actually we didn't, Todd did, took all of the speakers and retrofit those with USB charged radios. So instead of having the old speaker system, you now get a radio basically when we pass out our speakers. So there's lots of things that have changed, but you don't notice those things. It's improved the experience, but hasn't taken away from it.
Normally, from April to September, Kenda Drive-In hosts Throwback Thursday, a monthly event where vintage cars before 1980 get a free movie. Car owners get to meet up, check out one another's cars, dine, and watch a retro movie.
We'll average from 70 to 100 on a Thursday night.
On Thursday night, free movie, usually a car movie, and they get here early and they have supper and they visit. And a lot of them, especially the people that came every time, said they've met new people outside of car people they have their groups. And now this group, it's like a family. I mean, every time they come, they know who they're going to see, and they catch up, and it's a lot of fun. We canceled it this year because of COVID, because that event is not about social distancing.
There's no social distancing at a car show.
They're still griping about it because they wanted to go ahead and have it, but we just didn't feel comfortable with it. But we'll be back next year, and it's a great event.
Tonight, Kenda's showing is Halloween themed. They're playing Hotel Transylvania and Hocus Pocus. What do you cherish most after all these years?
I guess it would be when you open up a night and you see 50 kids in the front. Just a family type atmosphere.
Kids know no strangers. Yeah, that's high on the list when you can watch them all play and run around, and it's a safe environment. Grandparents sitting there watching kids. The family aspect of it is what I think means the most to us. Because, you go to a movie theater and you go for one reason, you go to watch a movie. Here it's not necessarily the case. Here it's the whole experience. You've got dinner before the movie, you sit out, you watch the sunset, you watch the kids play. You can talk, you can interact, you can, I'm a talker during a movie. I like to ask questions and talk, so I don't do well in theater. I like to be able to, why do you do that? Those kind of things. I call it more the experience. It's a movie experience instead of just the movie.
We'll see Todd and Kenda again in the upcoming sections. Right now, however, we venture to Memphis, Tennessee to speak more in depth with those who enjoy the drive-in as well as collaborate with it.
Pre-pandemic, I was running a trivia entertainment business, mostly trivia and bingo nights around Memphis. And it's been so long now, I forgot the exact number of everything. I know there was 3 bingo nights a week, and we had maybe 9 or so trivia nights happening. Pandemic hits, of course, then it becomes illegal for me to do my job because we can't, it's at bars and restaurants. And so for a while I was unemployed. Then I pivoted, started doing some virtual trivia, some virtual bingo, which I'm still doing today. And then also I'm here at the drive-in, of course, now doing this. Malco, we started in June, towards the end of June, once the drive-ins were allowed to be open again, because they were shut down even, and because it's such a safe environment, it's kind of surprising, but we didn't know what to do, I guess. So, the city was shutting down everything. It was successful enough, people were interested enough, and we felt like we were giving people a safe way to be entertained and distracted during the pandemic. So we kept it going, and we're going to keep it going indefinitely, well, at least till it gets too cold. When we first started doing this, like there was no new movies out in June. None, zero. Like in June, there was nothing out. And so they're showing classic movies, and one of the double features was Jurassic Park and Jaws the first week we did it. I was like, that is so awesome, because I actually remember, I know I've been to the drive-in multiple times, but I do remember seeing Jurassic Park here, and it's such a good drive-in movie. Some people have made this a regular thing, a routine, where they know they can come here now that we do have new movies out. This is the place to be. If you're going to go through 2020 and you're not coming to the summer drive-in, if you live in Memphis and you're not going to the drive-in in 2020, not saying you have to come to trivia, I'm just saying if you got to at least one time, you're not experiencing the pandemic properly if you don't come out here at least once and see the sunset at the summer drive-in.
I've seen countless movies here. I've slept through countless movies here. It's just an institution. It's the one drive-in that's still open in the city. There used to be 3 or 4. Now there's just this one, and it's still running. Fun things like, coming to trivia tonight was really fun. There was a group that would play these kind of old cult classic movies, and we came and watched Hitchcock movies all night. So there's something, I like coming to the nostalgic kind of activities now. It's like bringing back a piece of childhood.
Have you been to any cinemas now that they're opening back up, or do you prefer the drive-in experience?
Well, I haven't. This is one of the few times I've actually been out of the house. We thought about going to see a movie, but when we saw the seating chart, it just still looked a little too close. And we were like, no, but we'll come to the drive-in though. You can stay in your bubble.
Yeah, the first night we moved in, we didn't have any of our stuff yet, and so we just drove up and we watched Jaws at the drive-in, so that was cool. My wife had never seen it before, and it had been a long time since I had seen it. This was just kind of a cool thing that was unique and it was safe, so it was something that kind of checked all the boxes. It just made sense. In the past, going to the movies was, you got to, it was just one of a lot of things you could do. This is kind of like the only thing that you could really do, so it just kind of gives you an escape from staying in your house all the time. So this is kind of it's more of an escape, I guess, than a normal trip to go see a movie.
Have you watched any new releases here instead of going to a cinema?
Oh yeah, we saw Palm Springs, the Andy Samberg movie. That was really fun. We watched Tenet 2 weekends ago. That was one of the first new releases that we saw. That was probably our favorite one, I would say.
Now that we've gotten to know our drive-ins, let's get some insight on how they've adapted to the coronavirus pandemic, its new guidelines, as well as hear their thoughts on it.
It's changed things a bit because honestly, doing live concerts is something we would have never had the opportunity to do.
Something like that before.
No one would have wanted to do that particularly.
It would have been us having to pursue it, and now with this,
They're
was
like, hey,
tons of offers coming in.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to do this? Would you be in?
Right.
And so we kind of had to.
That's like a whole new thing to be like running events versus running a movie.
I think we've been less busy
Absolutely.
the
whole year.
this year.
Less busy than normal for movies. You're not running new movies that people want to see. But being able to run, a full concert event is very interesting and amazing. And I mean,
it was different.
It's different.
It was a completely different atmosphere. It was super fun.
Yeah.
I loved doing it anyways.
Yeah,
and
I do too. That's I'd love to do that a lot more.
I will say that we probably have reached more people because our crowds have been 50 to 60% newbies. They've never been before.
Never been before.
Brand new people. So we have attracted more people, but not as many. We haven't had as many customers as we would have had. I mean, the numbers are just not going to be there. Now, have we done other things? Sure. We've done concerts. We've done graduations. We've done a wedding. We've done all kinds of different things to not necessarily to try to make money, just because people need some place to do those type of things. So we've done some different stuff, and we have definitely thought outside the box.
Oh yeah, we've had Sunday morning church service.
Yeah, we had Sunday morning church services. We had several of those.
Community church service.
And it's been really cool, but it hasn't been the summer we would have had we had the movies that would have come out in 2020.
The majority of our customers this year have been new customers,
Right.
that have never been here before.
Locals just haven't been out as much. Probably because we're running older
Yeah.
movies instead of them coming to a new movie that they want to see. They've been here a million times. They're not coming for these old movies
Yeah,
as
your
much.
locals
So
come more for
the new
a
movie.
new movie.
They want to see the new movie that's coming out, and we don't have any new movies right now because there are no movies.
While most of our theaters are long-running operations that have encountered some of the many new challenges brought by COVID-19, the creation of the James Junction Drive-In was more so influenced by it.
Well, we wouldn't have this business without COVID, to be honest. As regular movie theaters were closing their doors, we saw a large gap, not only for the people living here that hadn't had at-home access to a theater in over 10 years, but also the surrounding communities, Paragould, Jonesboro, even Poplar Bluff. People have been hurting for things to do in the spite of what's been going on. We think that the traffic's really shown that.
Overall, in Arkansas at least, most of our drive-ins haven't experienced any severe shift in performance. But has there been a resurgence in the general success of the drive-in? Have they been, so to say, redeemed through new economic opportunity, or is it just trending news?
It's more publicity. It's not more people, it's more publicity. Drive-ins are doing much better than theaters, don't get me wrong, okay? We can pull in old movies and get by with it. Theaters struggle to do that. We can pull it in, it becomes part of the nostalgia, and oh, this is really cool because I can go to the drive-in and I can watch this old movie, and and I can be socially distanced, and I can be, all of that meshed together well. But we're still not where we would have been this summer with the movies that would have come out. We're a first-run drive-in, so we run first-run movies just like all the theaters do, and our numbers on the older movies are not going to match what they would have in a traditional summer. We've had how many calls on people wanting to build drive-ins?
Oh, at least 50.
At least 50. We want to build a drive-in. Drive-ins are doing so great right now. We want to build a drive-in. Okay, there's no way I would build a drive-in right now because you don't know where movies are headed. You don't know what's going on. I mean, and it's not cheap to build a drive-in.
So have drive-ins gotten their revenge? Short answer, no. But the theaters definitely received a boost that will likely benefit them over time. With the amount of attention they've recently received, our drive-ins should have improved potential for attracting new clients and staying relevant with future generations. What do you see in the future for your theaters, and maybe drive-in theaters as a whole?
I believe that so much is going to change as a result of this pandemic, and I think the power of the drive-in is something that should be renewed. I think to invest some dollars into the drive-in would be money well invested, brought back some of that nostalgia. I mean, there's nothing like watching the little dancing hot dog on the screen before the movie at a drive-in. I think it would be a hit.
I think there's definitely a place for it, as we get back into the real, like the normalcy of life. I think there's definitely a way that you can still do it, because if you bring enough people, I mean, this is a lot cheaper than going to the theaters, because you just pay $20 per car, and if you bring 4 or 5 people, that's way cheaper than $15 for a ticket at the regular theater. I will enjoy going back to the regular theater, but I don't see us not coming here once that starts again.
We think we might see a little bit of a decrease in our further customers, but as far as locally, this is still the only option as far as going to see a movie other than watching it at home. We like to think that overall that things will stay relatively the same.
I think one of the things that people have realized is that drive-ins are great venues for things even after COVID. The concerts, for example, they've realized that, hey, maybe this is a really good thing because, you put a stage right there in front of that screen and you project the image of that concert behind you on that screen. You've got the ultimate jumbotron.
Are you worried about the growth in streaming services and potential change for how media is distributed?
We're sort of lucky that streaming services have already been around, but like I said, there's a difference between getting to leave your house and watch it on a big screen with concessions nearby than there is at watching it at home on Netflix or Hulu or something.
They may stream it faster. I do believe that's a real possibility.
I think it's 17 days now from the release date till
To some companies. That hurts when you only have one screen because you can't put everything that's coming out on the screen within 17 days. I think what's going to end up streamed, what I really think is going to happen is, your movies are kind of in layers. Here's your blockbusters, and then here's these, and then here's these that are going straight to video anyway. These may stream, and they may stream pretty fast, but your blockbusters are still going to be there.
We just have to hope that enough people decide they'd rather have the experience than the ease of a streaming service.
I guess worst case scenario is we close down. We have lunch.
Yeah, we'll have lunch.
We do a really good food business, so we could always just serve food.
Judging from these venues, it's fair to assume that drive-in theaters have a positive outlook moving forward. Their potential to deliver a diverse selection of unique experiences could benefit them greatly as many entertainment sources start considering venue alternatives after shutdowns.
I think drive-ins are going to settle back into the niche that they already had before COVID, maybe a little bit better.
It really has regained its importance. The fond memories that even kids are going to have, they're mostly not being able to play with their friends and staying inside of this time. This is going to be something, and they got this new connection and new love of the drive-in.
I don't know. We'll have to get our kids here more so that they'll want to do it.
Well, my younger one, she just thought that was what
she's supposed to do.
Yeah,
right?
she said the same thing.
We're at a drive-in, right?
They do stuff at school, and they're like, "What are you gonna be when you grow up?" And she was just like,
"Well, I'm gonna run the drive-in."
Like, is there another option?
I'm like, oh yeah.
It's been very much worth it, but as with anything, you have to push through, because there will be times when it doesn't feel like it's worth it. There'll be times when it feels like you're doing a lot of work for little payoff, but you just have to keep going, otherwise you don't know what's really going to happen.
I think that, especially this year with having so many people in, that people have really made me feel really special about it. Or the drive-in feel special,
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
It just makes me really happy to see happy people come out here and have fun.
Yeah.
And that's really that's the whole point of it, I guess. It's really fun.
Yeah.
We approach COVID. We know we're okay, but where's Hollywood headed? We don't know where Hollywood's going. Are they going to continue to produce movies? Are they going to continue to release those movies just to theaters? Are they going to start live streaming everything? Ultimately, I think it'll come back around to what it came back around to at that time. People want to get out. They don't want to sit at home all the time. They want to go. So I think ultimately it will do that, and Hollywood will see that, but it is a very uncertain time.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world today. While all of us are trying to carry on through this unnormal period, having certainty is something greatly appreciated. People like those who run Stone Drive-In, Malco Summer Drive-In, James Junction and Kenda Drive-In are not people unaffected by hard times, but people who overcome them and strive to deliver an experience to those they serve. And these people exist beyond the entertainment industry. They can be found almost anywhere. So to all of those who adapt past obstacles to provide a positive experience to others, thank you.